North Korea's recent display of military power, marked by the unveiling of new ballistic missile launchers, has once again thrust the secretive nation into the global spotlight. This development is particularly significant, not just because of the advanced military hardware being showcased, but also due to the prominent presence of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the ceremony. His involvement underscores the importance that the regime places on this military advancement. However, the real questions lie beneath the surface. Why is North Korea ramping up its military posture at this moment? And what are the broader implications of this provocative move? The deployment of these ballistic missile launchers to frontline military units is a clear message to both domestic and international audiences. Domestically, it serves to reinforce Kim Jong-un's image as a strong leader capable of defending the nation against perceived external threats. This is particularly crucial for maintaining internal stability, especially in a regime that relies heavily on the projection of power and control to keep its population in check. By emphasizing military strength, Kim Jong-un seeks to rally his people around the regime, using the narrative of external threats to justify the hardships they endure. On the international stage, North Korea's actions are likely intended to send a clear warning to its adversaries, primarily South Korea, the United States, and Japan. The deployment of these missile launchers is a direct challenge to these nations, signaling that North Korea is prepared to defend itself and potentially take preemptive action if it feels threatened. This aggressive posture is also a strategic move to deter any potential military action against North Korea, by increasing the perceived cost of such a conflict for its adversaries. Furthermore, this military showcase takes place within a complex geopolitical context. Tensions on the Korean peninsula have been high for years, with intermittent periods of diplomacy overshadowed by frequent military provocations from the north. The current deployment of missile launchers can be seen as part of North Korea's broader strategy to secure its position on the global stage, leveraging its military capabilities as a bargaining chip in potential negotiations. It also reflects the regime's ongoing efforts to solidify its status as a nuclear-armed state, a goal that has been central to Kim Jong-un's leadership. To understand why North Korea is making such a bold military move, it's essential to consider the broader context in which this event took place. North Korea is currently facing significant internal challenges, including the aftermath of severe monsoon rains that have reportedly caused widespread damage and casualties. In most countries, such a natural disaster would prompt the government to focus on recovery efforts and humanitarian aid. However, in North Korea, the regime has chosen to respond by showcasing its military strength. This decision is consistent with North Korea's historical strategy of using military displays to bolster domestic support during times of crisis. The regime has long relied on the siege mentality, a concept that portrays North Korea as a nation under constant threat from external enemies, particularly South Korea, the United States, and Japan. By emphasizing this narrative, Kim Jong-un seeks to rally the North Korean people around the regime and justify the ongoing hardships they face. The recent deployment of 250 tactical ballistic missile launchers is a clear attempt to reinforce this narrative and demonstrate the regime's resolve to defend the country against perceived threats. The deployment of 250 tactical ballistic missile launchers to frontline units marks a significant escalation in North Korea's military posture. These launchers are equipped with short-range ballistic missiles, SRBMs, designed to target key military installations and population centers in South Korea. The missiles, which are estimated to have a range of up to 500 kilometers, are part of North Korea's broader strategy to diversify its tactical nuclear capabilities. The development and deployment of these missiles serve several purposes for the North Korean regime. Firstly, they provide a credible deterrent against any potential military action by South Korea or the United States. By positioning these launchers close to the border, North Korea sends a clear message that it is prepared to retaliate swiftly and decisively against any perceived aggression. This aligns with Kim Jong-un's recent statements labeling South Korea as the #1 enemy and emphasizing the need for a robust defense against potential threats from the South. The deployment of these missile launchers is part of North Korea's broader strategy to increase the cost of any potential conflict for its adversaries. By enhancing its ability to strike targets across South Korea, North Korea hopes to deter any preemptive strikes or military interventions by making the consequences of such actions more severe. The regime is well aware that South Korea and the United States have superior military capabilities, but by increasing the number of missile launchers and diversifying its arsenal, North Korea can complicate the planning and execution of any military response from its adversaries. The timing of this military display is also significant. North Korea has been increasingly vocal about its hostile stance towards South Korea and the United States, particularly since December, when it declared a frontal breakthrough policy that identified South Korea as its primary enemy. This policy shift has been accompanied by a series of provocative actions, including missile tests and military exercises, designed to demonstrate North Korea's readiness for conflict. The recent deployment of missile launchers to frontline units by North Korea is a clear extension of its ongoing aggressive military posture. This move is not merely symbolic. It represents a deliberate strategy by the North Korean regime to keep constant pressure on both South Korea and the United States. By positioning these missile systems at the front lines, North Korea is sending a message that it is prepared for any potential conflict and is willing to escalate tensions to maintain its position of strength. This deployment is also a significant step in bolstering North Korea's defensive capabilities. The regime understands that its survival depends heavily on its ability to deter any military action against it. By enhancing its frontline missile forces, North Korea aims to create a formidable defensive barrier that would make any attack by its adversaries costly and difficult. This is particularly important in the context of the Korean Peninsula, where the proximity of military forces and the potential for rapid escalation make the security environment exceptionally volatile. Moreover, the regime's recent refusal to accept humanitarian aid from South Korea following devastating floods highlights its unwavering commitment to this confrontational stance. Despite the severe damage and loss of life caused by the floods, North Korea has chosen to reject assistance that could alleviate the suffering of its people. This decision is rooted in the regime's broader strategy of self-reliance, known as hush, and its desire to avoid any appearance of weakness or dependency on its southern neighbor. By turning down humanitarian aid, North Korea is also reinforcing its narrative of resistance against external pressures. The regime likely fears that accepting aid from South Korea could be perceived as a concession, undermining its efforts to project strength and self-sufficiency. In the eyes of the North Korean leadership, maintaining a hardline stance is essential for preserving its authority and legitimacy, both domestically and on the international stage. Additionally, the timing of this deployment may be linked to the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Kim Jong-un is likely aware that the outcome of the election could have significant implications for U.S. policy toward North Korea. By escalating tensions now, North Korea may be attempting to position itself as a formidable adversary that cannot be ignored, regardless of who occupies the White House. This strategy is consistent with Kim Jong-un's long-standing goal of securing recognition for North Korea as a de facto nuclear-armed state and forcing the United States into negotiations on his terms. The Korean Peninsula has long been one of the most volatile regions in the world, and the introduction of additional ballistic missile capabilities only heightens the risk of miscalculation and conflict. For South Korea, the presence of these launchers so close to its border is a direct and immediate threat. While South Korea and the United States have advanced missile defense systems, the sheer number of launchers deployed by North Korea complicates their ability to effectively neutralize all incoming threats. North Korea's focus on enhancing its tactical nuclear capabilities suggests that the regime is moving away from the idea of denuclearization and instead pursuing a strategy of nuclear deterrence. This shift could prompt other countries in the region, particularly Japan and South Korea, to reconsider their own defense postures and potentially seek to enhance their military capabilities in response. Moreover, North Korea's actions could further strain its relations with China, its closest ally. While China has historically supported North Korea as a buffer state against U.S. influence in the region, Beijing is also concerned about the stability of the Korean Peninsula. North Korea's continued provocations, including the deployment of tactical missile launchers, risk destabilizing the region and complicating China's strategic interests. The deployment of 250 tactical ballistic missile launchers along North Korea's front lines is a clear indication of the regime's commitment to maintaining a strong military posture in the face of both domestic and international challenges. Kim Jong-un's decision to prioritize military displays over addressing the humanitarian needs of his people highlights the regime's reliance on the siege mentality as a means of maintaining control. North Korea's recent actions pose a significant and multifaceted challenge for the international community. The regime's relentless pursuit of advancing its missile capabilities, combined with its steadfast refusal to participate in meaningful diplomatic discussions, creates a volatile situation on the Korean peninsula. This ongoing militarization, particularly the development and deployment of advanced ballistic missile systems, sends a clear signal that North Korea is not interested in de-escalating tensions. Instead, it seems determined to bolster its defense posture, potentially as a means of securing leverage in any future negotiations, or simply as a deterrent against perceived external threats. For global powers and regional stakeholders, this presents a daunting dilemma. The lack of open channels for dialogue severely limits the possibilities for peaceful conflict resolution. Diplomatic efforts have repeatedly stalled, and with each new missile test or military parade, the window for constructive engagement appears to narrow further. The international community is left grappling with how to respond, whether to increase pressure through sanctions, attempt new diplomatic overtures, or bolster their own military defenses in response to North Korea's provocations. The situation is made even more precarious by the heightened risk of miscalculation or unintended escalation. With North Korea's military buildup continuing unabated, the chances of a small incident spiraling into a full-scale conflict increase. A misinterpreted move, a misfired missile, or a sudden shift in military posture could quickly lead to a situation where neither side is willing or able to back down. In such a tense environment, the margin for error is slim, and the potential consequences of a misstep could be catastrophic, not just for the Korean peninsula, but for the broader region as well. The possibility of a military conflict in East Asia, especially one involving nuclear-armed states, poses a grave threat to global security. The densely populated and economically vital regions surrounding the Korean peninsula would be particularly vulnerable in the event of an armed confrontation. Moreover, the involvement of major powers like the United States, China, and Japan in any conflict could quickly escalate the situation into a broader international crisis, with far-reaching implications for global peace and stability. In the coming months, much will depend on how the international community, particularly the United States and South Korea, chooses to respond to North Korea's provocations. Diplomatic efforts to bring North Korea to the negotiating table have thus far been unsuccessful, and the regime's recent actions suggest that it is more focused on solidifying its defensive capabilities than on pursuing dialogue. As such, the deployment of these missile launchers serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing security challenges posed by North Korea and the need for a coordinated international response to address them.